The diplomatic chamber aboard Station Theta-7 fell silent as the transmission ended. Jack stared at the central hologram, watching the smoking ruins of the Kepler mining colony fade to black. Around the oval table, representatives from a dozen species shifted uncomfortably, their varied forms casting strange shadows in the blue-white light. "The evidence is conclusive," came the clipped voice of the council leader, their iridescent feathers catching the light as they tilted their sharp head. "Human weapons, human attack patterns. Your species has violated the neutral zone accords." The violet eyes fixed on Jack's with predatory intensity. Jax's scarred knuckles whitened as he gripped the edge of the table. The stylus in his other hand stopped its rhythmic tapping against his palm. "That's impossible. Earth has honored the treaty for 3 years. We wouldn't." "Wouldn't what?" The council leader's wings twitched, a subtle tell that Jax filed away. "Your species' hunger for expansion is well documented. The Kepler system was rich in rare minerals. How convenient that the peaceful Dralathi just happened to be exterminated." In the corner of the chamber, Fran looked up from her console, auburn hair falling across her face. Her blue eyes caught Jax's for a fraction of a second, a warning. She'd been monitoring subspace chatter during the meeting, her fingers moving with practiced efficiency across the holographic interface. Now her jaw clenched, and she gave the slightest shake of her head. "The treaty binds all of us," Jack said, his voice measured but carrying an edge of steel, "including the council. Due process requires—" "Due process?" The council leader's feathers ruffled slightly. "Your warships struck without warning. There were no survivors to contradict the evidence." Too convenient, Jax thought. The Dralathi had been Earth's strongest supporters in the outer systems, their crystal-based technology complementing human innovation perfectly. Their destruction wasn't just genocide, it was strategic. From across the chamber, the liaison, a young human named Matt, cleared his throat nervously. His stocky frame hunched forward as he adjusted his collar. "Perhaps if we examine the weapon signatures more closely—" "The matter is closed," the council leader snapped. "Effective immediately, Earth's trading privileges are suspended. Your diplomatic missions will be recalled. Consider this your final warning." The alien representatives began filing out, their conversations a mixture of nervous whispers and satisfied murmurs. Some had always resented humanity's rapid rise, others simply feared being caught in the crossfire. As the chamber emptied, Jax remained seated, his hazel eyes fixed on the now dark hologram. The stylus resumed its tapping, a steady rhythm that helped him think. 3 years of careful diplomacy, of proving humanity could be trusted, wiped away in minutes. But the council leader's slight wing twitch, the too perfect evidence, the convenient timing, it all stank of a setup. Fran approached, her movements fluid but purposeful. "That transmission," she said quietly, her voice carrying just enough for him to hear. "It came through the Proxima relay." Jax's tapping stopped. The Proxima relay was under council control, heavily encrypted and monitored. For it to carry evidence of a human attack meant either Earth had lost its collective mind, or someone wanted it to look that way. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Council enforcement ships are already mobilizing," Fran replied, her fingers unconsciously adjusting the star chart tattoo on her wrist. But there was something else in the transmission, a data packet piggybacked on the main signal. "I've isolated it, but the encryption is unlike anything I've seen." Jack stood, his lean frame straightening with purpose. The council thought they could frame humanity and watch Earth burn. They'd underestimated what humans did when cornered. They fought back with everything they had. "How quickly can you crack it?" "Give me 6 hours with the main array." Fran's blue eyes brightened with the challenge. Whatever they're hiding, it's worth protecting with military-grade encryption. The chamber door hissed shut behind the last alien representative, leaving them alone with the weight of Earth's future. Jax moved to the viewport, watching the stars wheel slowly past. Somewhere out there, the council was mobilizing to destroy his species based on a lie. But lies, no matter how well crafted, left traces. "They broke the treaty first," he said, his reflection ghost-like in the transparent aluminum. "They think they can bury us in their deception." He turned back to Fran, seeing his own determination reflected in her stance. They're about to learn what happens when you underestimate humanity. The war for Earth's survival wouldn't be fought with ships and weapons. It would be won with truth, intelligence, and the relentless human refusal to surrender. The Council had made their first mistake. Now it was time to make them pay for it. The station's main conference hall buzzed with uneasy energy as Jax made his way through the crowd. Representatives from the minor species, those too small to matter in the Council's grand schemes, huddled in nervous clusters. The Zephyrians, with their gossamer wings, whispered among themselves, while the crystalline shard folk chimed in harmonic undertones that spoke of worry. Jax's diplomatic training kicked in as he approached the Zephyrian delegation. Their leader, a willowy being named Thys, flickered between visibility and translucence, a sure sign of distress. Ambassador Thys, Jax began, his voice carrying the warmth that had made him effective in these chambers. I know the Council's accusations are troubling, but— Troubling? Thys's form solidified, their large eyes reflecting the chamber's lights. They're saying humans destroyed an entire colony, that you broke sacred accords. The same accords that protect your people, Jax replied, leaning slightly forward, not enough to intimidate, but enough to show engagement. Think about it. If Earth wanted expansion, would we target the Dralathi, our closest allies? From the corner of his eye, Jax saw Matt working the other side of the room, his usual nervous energy channeled into productive networking. The young man's foot tapped against the floor, but his hands remained steady as he shared data tablets with curious representatives. In the far corner, Fran hunched over a portable console, her auburn hair a curtain around her face. Her fingers moved in rapid bursts across the holographic interface, then paused as she processed results. Even from across the crowded room, Jax could see the tension in her shoulders. The evidence seemed comprehensive, murmured Keth, the Shard Folk representative. Their crystalline body chimed softly, a sound that expressed doubt rather than certainty. Evidence can be manufactured, Jax said, his scarred knuckles relaxing as he saw interest flicker in several pairs of alien eyes. The question is, who benefits from Earth's downfall? The Council maintains order, Thys said, but their form flickered again, uncertainty made manifest. For whom? Jax pressed. Your species has been waiting 40 years for voting rights. The Shard Folk have been denied expansion permits for a generation. Earth achieved in 30 years what the Council told you would take centuries. The words hit home. Around the small group, other representatives began to lean in, drawn by the possibility that someone might finally articulate what they'd been thinking. The younger species, the ones the Council kept at arm's length, were hungry for change. Matt approached, his collar slightly askew but his expression animated. The weapon signatures don't match human tech, he said, offering a data tablet to Thys. I've been comparing them to our military database. The energy patterns are all wrong. Across the room, Fran's head snapped up. She caught Jax's eye and tapped her temple, their old signal for breakthrough. Her jaw was no longer clenched, and her posture had shifted from frustrated to focused. There's something else, Jax continued, his voice dropping to draw the growing circle closer. The attack targeted the Dralathi's quantum communication array first. Why would Earth destroy technology we helped develop? Keth's crystalline form brightened, their species equivalent of a frown. To prevent distress calls? Or to prevent the Dralathi from revealing who really attacked them, Jax countered. Think about it. A species that communicates through quantum entanglement, gone silent in the first seconds of battle. Very convenient for whoever wanted to control the narrative. The crowd around them had grown to include nearly half the minor species representatives, even some of the mid-tier civilizations, the Hegemony worlds, the Tri-Star Alliance, were drifting closer, their conversations dying as they listened. Fran moved through the crowd with purpose, her blue eyes bright with discovery. She reached Jax's side just as he was expanding on the inconsistencies in the Council's evidence. The data packet, she said quietly, her voice carrying just enough for their small group to hear. It's not just encrypted, it's keyed to specific quantum signatures. Whoever sent it wanted to make sure only certain people could decode it. And, Jax prompted, the quantum signature matches Council encryption protocols. This wasn't intercepted intelligence, it was an internal communication. The revelation rippled through the gathered representatives like a shock wave. Thys's form stabilized completely, their translucent skin taking on an almost militant opacity. Keth's crystalline body rang out a sharp harmonic that spoke of righteous anger. "They're saying the Council manufactured evidence?" asked Dr. Voss, the Centauri Federation's representative, her three eyes fixed on Fran with uncomfortable intensity. "I'm saying the evidence has Council fingerprints all over it," Fran replied, her technical precision lending weight to the accusation. "This isn't about stopping human expansion, it's about preventing anyone from challenging the status quo." Jax felt the mood in the room shift. The minor species had spent generations accepting their place in the galactic order, told that patience and compliance would eventually earn them respect. Now they were seeing proof that the game was rigged from the start. "What do you propose?" Thys asked, their form now solidly opaque and radiating determination. "We prove Earth's innocence," Jax said, his voice carrying the authority that came from absolute certainty. "But more than that, we prove the Council's guilt. They think they can rewrite history to maintain control." He looked around the circle of faces, seeing fear transforming into resolve. They're about to learn that some stories refuse to be buried. The Alliance was forming, not just to defend Earth, but to challenge the entire galactic order. The Council had overplayed their hand, and now their victims were finding their voice. The proximity alarms began screaming at 347 station time, their piercing wail cutting through the artificial night cycle. Jax rolled out of his bunk, instantly alert, his scarred knuckles gripping the edge of the sleeping alcove as he oriented himself. The red emergency lighting cast harsh shadows across the cramped diplomatic quarters. "Council patrol ships bearing 27 Mark V," came the announcement over the comm system. "3 heavy cruisers and a command vessel. They're demanding immediate docking clearance." Jax was already pulling on his uniform, his movements economical and practiced. The Council moved faster than he'd expected. Either they were more paranoid than usual, or someone had reported the previous day's gathering. Both possibilities were troubling. He made his way to the bridge, finding it in controlled chaos. The station's commander, a grizzled veteran named Torres, stood at the central console while her crew worked frantically at their stations. Through the main viewport, Jax could see the Council ships, sleek, predatory forms that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Status?" he asked Torres. "They're citing treaty violations," she replied, her weathered face grim, "demanding we turn over all Earth diplomatic personnel for immediate transport to Council space." Her eyes met his. "That's not happening on my watch." Fran appeared beside him, her auburn hair hastily tied back, but her blue eyes sharp with focus. She carried a portable scanner, its display showing energy readings from the approaching ships. "Their weapons are powered but not locked," she reported. "Intimidation, not immediate action." "Yet," Jax murmured, watching the ship's formation, the Council commander would be expecting surrender, a quick, clean operation that removed the human problem without messy questions. Time to disappoint them. "Commander Torres," he said, his voice carrying the diplomatic authority he'd cultivated over years of negotiation. "Request permission to handle communications." Torres nodded, gesturing to the comm station. "Channels open." Jack stepped forward, his posture straightening into the confident stance that had served him well in countless negotiations. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the sharp, avian features of a Council captain. The alien's violet eyes fixed on him with predatory intensity. "Captain Zaris," Jack said, recognizing the officer from previous encounters. "This is unexpected. Station Theta 7 is neutral territory under the Omega Accords." "Neutrality doesn't extend to harboring war criminals," Captain Zaris replied, their feathers ruffling with apparent anger. "Your species has violated the most sacred laws of civilized space. Surrender yourself and your accomplices, and we'll consider mercy." "Accomplices?" Jax's eyebrows rose slightly. "I'm a diplomat conducting standard liaison duties, unless the Council has redefined diplomacy as criminal activity?" In the background, he saw Fran moving between consoles, her scanner dancing across different readings. Her jaw was clenched with concentration, but her movements remained fluid and purposeful. She was analyzing the Council ship's transmission patterns, looking for weaknesses. "Don't play games," Xeris snapped. "We know about your gathering yesterday, your attempts to spread sedition among the minor species." "I see." Jax's tone remained level, but his scarred knuckles betrayed his tension as they clenched rhythmically. "And which part of the Neutral Zone Accords prohibits diplomatic discourse? I must have missed that amendment." Around the bridge, he could see the station crew taking heart from his calm demeanor. Torres had moved to the tactical station, her fingers hovering over the defensive systems. The minor species representatives who had access to the bridge watched with growing interest. "You're stalling," Xeris said, leaning forward. Their beak-like features cast harsh shadows in the transmission. "This station will surrender the human delegation or face the consequences." "The consequences of what?" Jack stepped closer to the screen, his intensity controlled but visible. "Attacking a neutral station? Destroying diplomatic immunity? That would be a treaty violation on your part, Captain." For a moment, uncertainty flickered across Xeris's sharp features. The Council's strength lay in their reputation for order and legitimacy. Open aggression against neutral territory would undermine their moral authority. Fran appeared at his elbow, her portable scanner showing new readings. "The command ship is charging their quantum disruption array," she whispered. "They're preparing to jam our communications." Jax nodded slightly, filing the information away. "Captain, I propose an alternative. Grant us 72 hours to prepare proper documentation for any extradition request. Surely the Council respects due process." "Due process?" Xeris's laugh was a harsh, clipped sound. "Your species murdered an entire colony. There is no process for genocide." "Then prove it," Jax said, his voice carrying the challenge openly now. "Present your evidence to an impartial tribunal. Let the minor species judge whether Earth's actions warrant such extreme measures." The suggestion rippled through the bridge. Several of the alien representatives straightened, their various forms conveying sudden interest. An impartial tribunal, something the Council had never offered, always preferring to be judge and jury themselves. "Impossible," Xeris said, but their feathers had begun to ruffle with uncertainty. "The Council has already reviewed—" "The Council has accused," Jax interrupted. "Accusation isn't evidence. If your case is as strong as you claim, an independent review should be welcome." Behind Xeris, Jax could see other Council officers conferring rapidly. The delay was working, buying time for Fran to gather more intelligence and for word to spread throughout the station. Every minute of visible hesitation by the Council weakened their position. "I'll give you 6 hours," Xeris finally said. "Prepare your documentation. But know this, if you attempt to flee or communicate with Earth, this station will be considered a hostile target." The transmission cut out, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Torres let out a breath she'd been holding, while the alien representatives began talking among themselves in excited whispers. 6 hours, Fran said quietly, her scanner still active. "I found something in their transmission patterns. There's a secondary signal embedded in their communications, encrypted, but using the same quantum signature as the Dralathi evidence." Jax's scarred knuckles relaxed for the first time since the alarms began. "How long to decode it?" "With the main array?" Fran's blue eyes gleamed. 3 hours, maybe less." The Council thought they had Earth cornered, but they'd made a critical error. In their arrogance, they'd brought the very evidence that would expose their deception. Jax looked around the bridge, seeing determination replacing fear in the faces of both human and alien personnel. "Then let's get to work," he said. "Time to show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity's ability to dig up the truth." The server room hummed with the sound of overworked cooling systems as Fran hunched over the main quantum processing array. 3 hours of intensive decryption had left her auburn hair disheveled, but her blue eyes burned with the focused intensity of a hunter closing in on prey. The secondary signal from the Council ships was finally yielding its secrets. "Almost there," she muttered, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The encryption was military-grade, but it followed patterns she'd seen before. Council algorithms designed to be unbreakable by any single species' technology. They hadn't counted on human innovation combined with stolen quantum keys. Jack stood behind her, his stylus tapping against his palm in a steady rhythm. The sound had become background noise to the technical staff, but Fran found it oddly reassuring. His presence kept her grounded while her mind navigated the labyrinth of encrypted data. "There," she said, her voice hoarse from hours of concentration. "The signal structure is completely different from the Dralathi evidence. This is real-time communication, not archival data." The holographic display shifted, revealing cascading lines of decoded text. Fran's jaw clenched as she read, her athletic frame tensing with each revelation. "Jax, you need to see this." He moved to her side, his hazel eyes scanning the translated communication. The words were in standard Galactic, but the implications were staggering. The Council hadn't just framed Earth, they'd orchestrated the entire Dralathi massacre to create justification for human suppression. "Phase 1 complete," Jax read aloud, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Dralathi quantum array destroyed before distress transmission. Fabricated evidence seeded through Proxima relay. Recommend immediate isolation protocols for Earth system." "It gets worse," Fran said, scrolling through more decoded text. "Look at this timestamp. The communication was sent 6 hours before the attack supposedly happened. They were coordinating the false flag operation in real time." The server room's door hissed open, and Matt entered, his stocky frame moving with unusual purpose. His normally nervous demeanor was replaced by grim determination. "The Council's ships are getting impatient," he reported. "Captain Xeris is demanding our surrender in the next hour." "Let them demand," Jack said, his scarred knuckles whitening as he gripped the console edge. "We've got them." "Not yet," Fran warned, her technical precision overriding emotional satisfaction. "This proves the Council's guilt, but we need to transmit it beyond the station. Their jamming will prevent any message from reaching Earth or the outer systems." The implications hung heavy in the recycled air. They had the evidence to clear humanity's name, but it would die with them if the Council made good on their threats. Jax resumed his stylus tapping, the rhythm faster now as his mind worked through options. "What about the minor species?" Matt asked. "If we could get the data to their home systems—" "Same problem," Fran interrupted. "The Council's jamming covers all subspace frequencies. We'd need a direct quantum entanglement link, and those are restricted to—" She stopped mid-sentence, her blue eyes widening with realization. "The Dralathi communication array, they destroyed it first because it used quantum entanglement technology that couldn't be jammed." "But it's destroyed," Matt pointed out, his foot beginning its familiar nervous tapping. "The array, yes. But the quantum resonance crystals that powered it," Fran's fingers flew across the interface, pulling up stellar cartography data. "They're grown, not manufactured. The Dralathi home system would have seed crystals in stasis waiting for the next generation of arrays." Jax's tapping stopped as the implications hit him. "How far is the Dralathi home system?" 47 light-years, Fran replied, her voice gaining strength with each word. "But that's not the issue. The problem is getting there without the Council stopping us." The server room's lights dimmed as the station's power systems redistributed energy to the defensive shields. Through the bulkheads, they could hear the subtle vibration of the Council ship's engines as they adjusted their positions. The noose was tightening. "There's another way," came a voice from the doorway. The three humans turned to see Dr. Voss, the Centauri Federation representative, her three eyes fixed on them with uncomfortable intensity. "The Hegemony maintains a quantum relay station in the Kepler system. If you could reach it—" "The Kepler system was attacked," Matt said. "It's probably swarming with Council ships." "Probably," Dr. Voss agreed. "But the relay station is automated and heavily shielded. If it survived the attack, it could transmit your evidence to every major system in the galaxy." Jack straightened, his diplomatic mind already working through the implications. "What's the catch?" "The catch," Dr. Voss said, her middle eye focusing on him with disturbing precision, "is that someone would have to physically reach the relay station to upload the data, and that someone would have to get past the Council blockade to do it." The silence stretched between them, filled with the hum of machinery and the weight of impossible decisions. Fran saved the decoded data to a portable storage device, her movements automatic, while her mind processed the options. "I'll go," Jack said finally. "If I can get to the Kepler system—" "We'll go," Fran corrected, her blue eyes meeting his with stubborn determination. "This data requires specific quantum keys to decrypt. You'd need me to interface with the relay station." Matt cleared his throat, his nervous energy channeled into resolve. "3 people have a better chance than 2. Besides, someone needs to handle communications with the minor species while you're infiltrating council space." Dr. Voss's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, her species equivalent of a smile. "The Centauri Federation has a fast courier ship docked in Bay 7. Officially, it's undergoing routine maintenance. Unofficially, it could be ready to launch in 20 minutes. Jax felt the familiar weight of command settling on his shoulders. The mission was dangerous, probably suicidal, but it was also their only chance to expose the Council's deception. Around him, he could see the same determination reflected in his companions' faces. "Then we'd better get moving," he said, his voice carrying the authority that had made him an effective diplomat. "The Council thinks they've cornered us, but they're about to learn something about human persistence." The evidence was in their hands, but getting it to the galaxy would require everything they had. The real battle was just beginning. The maintenance tunnels beneath Station Theta 7 were cramped and poorly lit, but they provided the only route to Bay 7 that avoided Council surveillance. Jax led the way, his lean frame moving with practiced efficiency through the narrow passages. Behind him, Fran carried the portable storage device containing the decoded evidence, while Matt brought up the rear with emergency supplies. 15 minutes to reach the courier ship, Fran whispered, checking her chronometer. Her auburn hair was tied back tightly, and her blue eyes reflected the tunnel's emergency lighting with focused intensity. They'd been moving for 10 minutes when the first explosion rocked the station. The maintenance tunnel shuddered, and emergency klaxons began wailing throughout the structure. Jax pressed himself against the tunnel wall, his scarred knuckles gripping the metal framework as the vibrations subsided. "That wasn't the Council," Matt said, his stocky frame wedged between 2 support beams. "It came from inside the station." Fran's scanner was already active, its display showing energy readings throughout the station's superstructure. "Concussion charge in the main computer core," she reported, her jaw clenching with realization. "Someone's trying to destroy the communications array." "The evidence," Jax said, his stylus appearing in his hand as his mind raced through possibilities. "If they destroy the quantum processing system, we lose the ability to decrypt additional data." They reached the next junction, where the tunnel split toward the docking bays. Through the transparent aluminum viewing port, they could see the courier ship Dr. Voss had promised, a sleek silver vessel with the distinctive curved hull of Centauri design. But between them and the ship, emergency response teams were racing through the corridors. "This way," Matt said, indicating a service hatch that led to the outer hull. "We can reach the docking bay through the external maintenance ports." The hatch opened onto the station's exterior, where the starfield wheeled slowly past. Magnetic boots kept them anchored to the hull as they made their way toward Bay 7, but the view of the Council ships hanging in space like predatory birds was deeply unsettling. "There," Fran said, pointing to an airlock near the docking bay. "That should connect to the ship's boarding tube." But as they approached the airlock, a figure emerged from the shadows of the station's superstructure. The traitor, a tall, lanky man with thinning gray hair and shifty green eyes, stepped into their path, his pale skin flushed with nervous energy. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice carrying across the comm frequency, "but this has gone far enough." Jax's stylus stopped its tapping as he recognized the man. Dr. Kellens, the Hegemony's trade representative, had been one of their most vocal supporters during the previous day's gathering. His long fingers clutched a portable jamming device, its active field disrupting their communications. "You're making a mistake," Jax said, his diplomatic training keeping his voice level despite the fury building in his chest. "The Council is using you." "Using me?" Kellens laughed, a bitter sound in the vacuum of space. "They're offering protection. Your little rebellion is going to get us all killed." "We have proof of their deception," Fran said, her athletic frame tensing as she prepared to defend the storage device. "The evidence we found—" "Will die with you," Kellens interrupted. "The Council promised amnesty for anyone who helped stop this madness. Earth is finished. I'm just making sure the rest of us survive." The second explosion came from inside the station, more powerful than the first. Through the docking bay's transparent walls, they could see smoke and debris filling the corridors. The sabotage was systematic, designed to cripple the station's ability to resist Council boarding parties. "You set the charges," Matt said, his nervous energy transformed into cold anger. "You're destroying the station to help them." "I'm saving it," Kellens replied, his shifty eyes avoiding direct contact. "The Council will be merciful if we cooperate. Resistance only brings destruction." Jack stepped forward, his hazel eyes locked on the traitor with uncomfortable intensity. "You really believe that? After everything we've shown you about their deception?" "I believe in survival," Kellens said, his datapad appearing in his long fingers. "And right now, that means choosing the winning side." The jamming device was preventing them from calling for help, but Fran's scanner was still functional. She'd been analyzing the station's structural integrity, and her expression was growing increasingly grim. "The charges are placed to collapse the main support beam," she said quietly. "The station will break apart in sections." Forcing an evacuation, Jax realized, the Council ships will rescue the survivors and control the narrative. "Very perceptive," Kellens said, his posture straightening slightly as he gained confidence. "The official report will show that human extremists destroyed the station rather than surrender. Another example of your species' violent tendencies." But as he spoke, his attention was focused on Jax, not noticing Fran's subtle movements. Her fingers worked across the scanner's interface, reprogramming its emission frequency to match the jamming device's resonance. It was a desperate gamble, but their only chance. "You're wrong about one thing," Jax said, his voice carrying the authority that had made him an effective negotiator. "Humans don't surrender. We adapt." Fran's scanner emitted a sharp pulse of energy, overloading Kellens' jamming device. The man stumbled backward, his pale skin flushing with shock as sparks flew from his equipment. In the moment of confusion, Matt launched himself forward, his stocky frame tackling the traitor and sending them both tumbling across the hull. Jax and Fran reached the airlock just as the third explosion rocked the station. The docking bay's atmosphere was venting into space, but the courier ship's boarding tube was still intact. They cycled through the airlock, the artificial gravity pulling them into the ship's corridor. Dr. Voss was waiting for them, her three eyes reflecting the emergency lighting with calm determination. "The ship is ready for launch," she said, "but the Council ships are already moving to intercept." "Then we'd better move fast," Jax replied, his scarred knuckles clenching as he looked back at the station. Through the viewport, he could see Matt still struggling with Kellens, their forms silhouetted against the star field. "We can't leave him," Fran said, her blue eyes bright with anguish. The courier ship's engines flared to life, pulling them away from the dying station. Behind them, the Council ships were already launching boarding parties, their predatory forms closing in on the helpless structure. The traitors' sabotage had worked exactly as planned. But as they accelerated toward the jump point, Jax felt a cold satisfaction settling in his chest. Kellens had underestimated human adaptability, and the Council had underestimated human determination. They had the evidence, they had a ship, and they had a destination. The real war was just beginning. The Kepler system was a graveyard. As the courier ship dropped out of hyperspace, its sensors revealed the smoking ruins of what had once been humanity's most successful outer colony. Debris fields marked the locations of orbital stations, while the planet's surface showed the distinctive craters of orbital bombardment. 27 ships, Dr. Voss reported, her three eyes scanning the tactical display. Council fleet composition, heavy cruisers, destroyers, and at least 3 command vessels. They're not taking chances. Jack studied the holographic representation of the system, his stylus tapping against his palm as he analyzed the defensive patterns. The Council ships were arranged in a standard blockade formation, covering all major approach routes. But blockades were designed to stop large fleets, not single ships with specific objectives. There, he said, pointing to a gap in the coverage near the system's asteroid belt. The relay station is in that sector. If we can get past the outer perimeter, Dr. Voss's middle eye focused on the display with uncomfortable precision. The Centauri ship has stealth capabilities, but they're not perfect. If we're detected... The ship's systems went dark as they approached the asteroid belt, running on passive sensors and emergency power. Through the viewport, the rocky debris cast strange shadows in the system's pale light. Somewhere ahead, the Hegemony relay station waited, if it had survived the attack. "Contact," Fran whispered, her scanner detecting energy signatures ahead. "The relay station is intact, but it's being guarded by 2 Council destroyers." Jax's scarred knuckles whitened as he gripped the console edge. 2 destroyers weren't insurmountable, but they'd need a distraction to reach the relay station undetected. The portable storage device containing the evidence felt heavy in his jacket pocket. "Can we communicate with the station?" he asked. "Not without revealing our position," Dr. Voss replied. "The relay station is automated, but it requires physical access to upload new data." They drifted closer, using the asteroid field's natural cover to mask their approach. The relay station appeared on their screens, a massive structure bristling with quantum transmission arrays. The 2 Council destroyers hung nearby, their crews probably bored with guard duty. "There," Fran said, pointing to a maintenance port on the station's lower section. "That access hatch connects to the main data core. If we can reach it..." The 2 Council destroyers, sleek and menacing, hung like silent predators near the Hegemony relay station. Their sensor sweeps, though routine, were thorough enough to detect any conventional approach. Jax, Fran, and Dr. Voss watched them from the Centauri courier ship, still cloaked within the asteroid field. The silence in their cockpit was broken only by the faint hum of the ship's passive sensors and the distant, almost imperceptible thrum of the destroyer's engines. "We need a diversion," Jack stated, his gaze fixed on the holographic display of the Kepler system. His stylus, usually a rhythmic comfort, lay still in his scarred hand. The weight of their mission, the survival of humanity, pressed down on him. "A small localized energy spike," Fran mused, her fingers already dancing across a secondary console. "Enough to draw one of them away, but not so much that it alerts the entire fleet." Her blue eyes, usually so bright with intellectual curiosity, were now narrowed in fierce concentration. A phantom signature, perhaps, something that mimics a Dralathi scout ship, long-range sensors only. Dr. Voss's middle eye blinked in rapid succession, a sign of deep thought. "The Centauri ship's auxiliary power core can generate a burst. It would be a one-time use, and it would leave us vulnerable for a few minutes, but it could work." "Do it," Jax commanded, his voice firm. "Target the destroyer furthest from the access hatch. Give us a 5-minute window." Fran nodded, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Initiating Phantom Signature Protocol 3, 2, 1. A faint ripple appeared on the tactical display, a fleeting blip of energy at the edge of the asteroid field, precisely where the Dralathi would have operated. One of the destroyers, the Vigilant, immediately shifted its vector, its massive engines flaring as it began a slow, deliberate sweep towards the anomaly. The other, the Sentinel, remained in place, its attention still fixed on the relay station. "That's our window," Jack said, turning to Dr. Voss. "Take us in. Low power, minimal emissions, stay within the asteroid field's shadow for as long as possible." The Centauri courier, designed for speed and stealth, slipped silently through the debris. The journey felt agonizingly slow, every minute a lifetime as they crept closer to the relay station. The Sentinel remained a looming threat, its weapon ports visible even at this distance. Approaching the access hatch, Dr. Voss reported, her voice a low hum. Gravlocks engaging, prepare for EVA. Jax and Fran moved with practiced ease, donning their light EVA suits. The portable storage device containing the decoded evidence was secured to Fran's wrist. As the airlock cycled, they could see the vast, silent expanse of space, the distant stars like scattered diamonds. The relay station, now massive and imposing, filled their view. "Remember the protocol," Jack said, his voice calm over the comms. "Get the data uploaded. Don't engage unless absolutely necessary." They propelled themselves through the vacuum, using small bursts from their thrusters to navigate the final meters to the access hatch. It was a standard Hegemony design, sturdy and unyielding. Fran's fingers, encased in her suit's gloves, worked quickly on the external console, overriding the manual lock. A soft hiss indicated the hatch had disengaged. As they slipped inside, the internal lights of the station flickered to life, revealing a narrow, utilitarian corridor. The air was stale, recycled, but breathable. The station had been running on automated systems since the attack. "This way," Fran said, consulting a schematic on her wrist-mounted display. "The main data core is 3 levels down through the central conduit." They moved swiftly, their magnetic boots clanking softly against the metal deck plates. The station was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos of Theta 7. The only sounds were their own breathing and the distant hum of the station's life support. Suddenly, a sharp thunk echoed from behind them. Jack spun, his hand instinctively going to the non-existent sidearm at his hip. A maintenance drone, its optical sensors glowing red, hovered at the end of the corridor. It was a standard Hegemony model, usually harmless, but this one seemed to be observing them with unusual intent. "It's just a drone," Fran whispered, but her voice held a hint of unease. "Probably on its routine patrol." As if in response, the drone emitted a series of high-pitched chirps. Then its optical sensors flared and it accelerated towards them, its manipulator arms extending. "It's been reprogrammed," Jax yelled, pushing Fran behind him. He braced himself, knowing a diplomatic solution wouldn't work here. The Council had left nothing to chance. The drone slammed into him, its metallic arms attempting to grapple. Jax, with his combat training, managed to twist, deflecting its main thrust. He grabbed one of its manipulator arms, feeling the surprising strength of the machine. Fran, quick-thinking, pulled a multi-tool from her belt and jammed it into the drone's optical sensor. Sparks flew, and the drone whirred erratically before its movements became jerky and then ceased altogether, collapsing to the deck. "Nice work," Jack said, pulling the multi-tool free. "Too close," Fran replied, her breath coming in short gasps. They must have anticipated someone trying to access the station. They continued their descent more cautiously now. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every distant hum a potential ambush. They reached the central conduit, a wide shaft that plunged into the heart of the station. A series of ladders ran down its length. "The data core is at the bottom," Fran confirmed, peering into the gloom. "This is the fastest way." As they began their descent, another drone, larger and more heavily armored, emerged from a side passage. This one was clearly designed for security, its twin energy cannons humming ominously. "Go!" Jack shouted, pushing Fran onto the ladder. "I'll distract it!" Fran hesitated for a split second, her blue eyes wide with alarm, but she knew Jax was right. The mission was paramount. She scrambled down the ladder, the portable storage device clutched tightly. Jax drew the multi-tool, its small size a poor match for the drone's firepower. He knew he couldn't defeat it, but he could buy Fran time. He moved, drawing the drone's fire, dodging its energy blasts as he tried to find a weakness. The drone was fast, its targeting systems precise. One blast grazed his shoulder, searing his suit. He gritted his teeth against the pain. Below, Fran reached the bottom of the conduit. She found the entrance to the main data core, a heavily reinforced door. She could hear the sounds of Jax's desperate fight above her. "Jax, hurry!" she yelled, her voice strained. Jax, seeing Fran was safe, made a desperate gamble. He feigned a retreat, drawing the drone closer, then suddenly reversed, launching himself at the drone's optical sensors. He plunged the multi-tool into its primary sensor array, the same tactic Fran had used. This drone was tougher, but the sudden, unexpected attack caught it off guard. It shrieked, a high-pitched metallic whine, and its energy cannons flared wildly, impacting the conduit walls. Jax clung on, gritting his teeth as the drone thrashed. Finally, with a shudder, it went limp, its systems failing. He dropped to the floor, panting, his shoulder throbbing. "I'm coming," he called out, scrambling down the ladder. They reached the main data core, a vast chamber filled with humming servers and glowing data crystals. The air was cold, sterile. Fran was already at the main interface, her fingers flying across the holographic console. "The quantum signature of the Dralathi array, it's still here," she murmured, her voice filled with awe. A residual imprint. The Council couldn't completely erase it. She connected the portable storage device, and a stream of data began to flow into the relay station's systems. The decoded evidence, the Council's real-time communications, the proof of their deception, all of it was being uploaded. "How long?" Jax asked, standing guard at the door, his eyes scanning the empty corridor. "Almost there. Just a few more seconds for the full broadcast protocols to engage," Fran replied, her face illuminated by the console's glow. "Once it's through, it'll hit every major system in the galaxy simultaneously." Suddenly, the station's internal comm system crackled to life. "Human intruders detected in main data core. Prepare for immediate boarding." Captain Xeris's voice, cold and precise, echoed through the chamber. "They found us," Jax muttered, his hand going to his aching shoulder. "Too late," Fran said, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. "It's done. The data is transmitting." A wave of energy rippled through the station, a subtle vibration that indicated a massive data transfer. On the holographic display, a network of glowing lines spread outwards, connecting the Kepler system to countless others across the galaxy. The truth was out. Just as the first Council boarding party breached the data core door, Jax and Fran were already moving. Dr. Voss, having brought the courier ship closer, had opened an emergency access hatch directly into the data core chamber. "Get in!" Dr. Voss yelled over the comms, her three eyes wide with urgency. They scrambled into the ship, the Council soldiers' energy blasts searing the doorframe behind them. The Centauri courier's engines roared to life, pulling them away from the relay station just as the first Council destroyers began to target it. "They're firing on the relay station," Fran cried, watching the tactical display. "They can't stop the signal now," Jax said, his voice grim but resolute. "It's already spread. They're just destroying the evidence of their own failure." The relay station exploded in a silent, brilliant flash of light, a testament to the Council's desperation. But it was too late. The truth, once unleashed, could not be contained. As they jumped back into hyperspace, leaving the burning wreckage of the Kepler system behind, Jax felt a profound exhaustion, but also a surge of hope. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you underestimated humanity. Days later, the Centauri courier ship docked at a small, independent station on the fringes of the Tri-Star Alliance. News of the Council's deception had spread like wildfire. Emergency broadcasts from countless species filled the comm channels, demanding answers. The minor species, emboldened by the undeniable evidence, were rising up, their voices unified in outrage. Ambassador Thies, the Zephyrian leader, was among the first to greet them. Her form was solidly opaque, radiating a quiet strength. Keth, the Shardfolk representative, chimed a harmonious welcome. "The Council is in chaos," Thies reported, her voice firm. "Their authority is crumbling. Many species are demanding a new galactic assembly, one based on true representation, not inherited power." "And Captain Xeris?" Jax asked, his gaze still haunted by the images of the Dralathi colony. "Recalled, along with all officers involved in the Kepler atrocity," Keth chimed. "There are calls for their immediate trial by an independent tribunal." Fran, though weary, managed a small smile. Justice, finally. Matt, who had miraculously survived the station's collapse thanks to a quick-thinking rescue by a Zephyrian transport, joined them, his collar still askew, but his eyes bright with renewed purpose. "The Hegemony has officially condemned the Council's actions. They're offering full support for Earth's reconstruction efforts in the Kepler system." Jax looked at his team, at the faces of those who had risked everything for the truth. Fran, the brilliant analyst. Matt, the nervous but determined liaison. Dr. Voss, the steadfast ally. They had faced overwhelming odds, betrayal, and the threat of annihilation, and they had prevailed. "The war isn't over," Jack said, his voice carrying the weight of future challenges, "but the first battle has been won. Now we rebuild. We forge a new galactic order, one where truth and justice prevail." The path ahead would be long and arduous. The Council, though weakened, would not surrender easily. There would be political maneuvering, economic warfare, and perhaps even more desperate attempts to regain control. But humanity had shown the galaxy its true nature, not just a species of warriors, but of innovators, truth-seekers, and relentless survivors. They had proven that when cornered, they would fight not just for themselves, but for the very ideals of justice and freedom. As the sun set over the alien cityscape of the Independent Station, casting long purple shadows, Jax watched the stars. The galaxy was no longer a place of silent fear and oppressive rule. It was a place of hope, of challenge, and of a future forged by the unwavering spirit of humanity. The treaty had been broken, but in its shattering, a new, stronger alliance had been born, ready to face whatever the cosmos threw their way. Humanity, underestimated and then unleashed, had finally found its true place among the stars.